Hello YouTube, welcome to the Natural Q&A number 5. Before I start, an announcement for this channel, because the last Q&A also had the announcement that commercials are going to be put on the channel. Good news, I actually found a way out of this. So now I have full control over the ads on this channel, meaning that you should never see one. And if you do see one, please let me know. Leave a comment on the video in question and I will go in and edit the ad out. I don't know how long it's going to last like this. I think YouTube hasn't realized yet that there is a flaw in the way that they've scheduled the entire thing. But I have gained control over the monetization and I don't really have to have it exist, meaning that there was once a time where if you had monetization, your videos were monetized. But for some reason, it's not the case now. So let's hope it lasts. And with that being said, we're going to commence the Q&A. This one is going to be shorter because there is less question, so all the better. If you do have a question, let me know in the comments, because I tend to do these Q&As once a month. But if I get less question and other Q&As are more popular, I'll just skip the schedule and I will make more episodes of the other Q&As. First question by Wyatt Spittler. It might be a really cool idea for you to do some sort of online bodybuilding show among your subscribers. Oh, give me 1 second. What is this? Okay, give me 1 second. Pause this. Sorry about that. My laptop has decided to turn off at 90% battery for some reason. It might be time to change it, but I'm too cheap for that. So, the question by Wyatt was, it would be cool to do some sort of online bodybuilding show amongst your subscribers. Or the standard is more of a lean body with maximum muscles instead of being 5% but emaciated. I agree with the idea and the sentiment. Issue is that I don't have the size. The platform is not big enough to do that. Keep in mind that, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but for the most part, the people on this channel are beginners or novices, because that's the majority of YouTube fitness. And so we don't really have enough of a base to do that. Or if we do, it's not going to be super interesting or impressive in a sense, because there's going to be a lot of people who are just getting started in lifting, and it's not going to represent natural bodybuilding. That being said, there are other people who have the ability to do that. Like Nick Strength and Power, there is one of my French compatriot who is Lucas Guif, who also has done that in the past. And I'm sort of waiting for one of these two or someone else to do that. Meaning that I will enter bodybuilding shows if they're online, and I'm just waiting. But for the moment, because of the global situation, of course, all of that is cancelled or delayed. So it's sort of the reason why you haven't really heard much of that. And maybe, who knows, in the future, maybe this channel will be big enough, we'll have enough of a community that it's going to be possible for us to do that. But right now, it's not a good idea. But I do like the idea of actually having a natural show where people don't have to diet to insane degrees to be able to just jump on stage. That being said, it's always been an option. It's just that people don't really want to look ridiculous on stage next to people who are shredded. But I personally will do that, meaning that when a show finally is announced, I will not cut for it. I will just show up with my muscles, with my fat, and we'll see what it does. But that is going to be my way. Natural Hypothermia asks, have you always spoken with your hands, or do you put a conscious effort into it? I don't think about it. They just do their thing, and as I'm talking, but I've heard that some people say it's mostly Southern Europeans who do that. And since I do have half of my family who is Spanish, people talk with their hands a lot. And so it's something that I've always done. I still remember as a kid, people would mention that I spoke with my hands. I do think it helps people follow what you say, and it also is sort of captivating because it's something moving, which is useful because in my videos I don't do any editing and it's always the same background. So if it was just my voice, maybe you would have a tough time following what I say. So that's why the hands move all the time. And I'm just going to extrapolate a little bit on that question, but some people have asked, because my hands move all the time, what is up with the pinky finger, because it's always crooked. Well, first off, like all of the fingers are crooked now because it's 20 degrees in the garage, so they're cold. But the pinky is missing a tendon. And it's the same on both hands. I don't know the name of that thing. I know it has a name, but it's a genetic condition where I can, if I apply force with another hand, straighten the pinky, but its natural state is crooked. And it's funny because my great grandpa had it. It skipped my grandpa and my dad, and it arrived in me. And I don't know what were the chances of that, but it's sort of a fun body trick. I mean, it doesn't really damage my ability to lift. It doesn't hurt. It's just there. Natural Hypothermia also asks, would you say that you love your job, or is this just a means to make money? I'm lucky in that aspect that regardless of if I love it or not, I'm very industrious and I love being productive. So as long as something is not really abject to me, I will do it. I've done jobs that I didn't necessarily like, but because they had me work a lot, and since that's what I like, is being repetitive and being almost robotic in a sense, I by default loved it. What I'm doing right now is actually very interesting. So it keeps me intellectually challenged, and it keeps me, I think the term is challenged intellectually, because intellectually challenged means something else, but it also keeps me engaged all the time because I'm constantly doing something, I'm constantly in the process of doing something. So it's a very good situation for me. Plus, it's purely mental, so I use zero physical energy. I can focus all of it on my bodybuilding, which is a blessing for bodybuilders. It is tough to bodybuild and have a blue-collar job, so I'm very lucky in that aspect. In terms of money, in reality, I don't really... I have a detached relationship with money, and I do think that it's, in a sense, a privilege because I was never missing money when I was growing up. Not that my family was rich, but I was never intellectualizing the concept because to me it didn't really exist. And I think that in that aspect, my parents did a good job because kids shouldn't know what money is. Some people will disagree and say it's not realistic, but if your kid is already worrying about money when they're 12, that's not a good thing because they're going to build up anxiety around the topic. I started thinking about money when I moved on my own. I had to pay rent, I had to pay the groceries, etc. But before that, I didn't have to care about it. And I still sort of don't care about it. To me, it's paper or it's a number on the bank account. It's all of that is just fictional. We used to trade things. Now we have that form of energy that we call money. It's a currency. It's practical, but I have no attachment to it. And I don't have any lust for it or resentment for it either. I don't hate money. It's just what it is. I haven't even looked at one of my paycheck in years. I don't really care. I'm not the one who what is the term? Who manages my own money. So to me, I would start worrying the day I can't actually pay my food, but hopefully it's never gonna happen. And then I think we had two other questions that I put up there. And the issue with the last Q&A too was that there was a lot of intake and a lot of feedback from you guys where you discussed the monetization. And so if your question wasn't answered, I would suggest that you ask it again underneath this Q&A because the comments should be much rarer in that case. I'm just answering to someone to send them to the nutrition Q&A so that they can actually get an answer to their question. So the last two were from the Q&A number 3. Number 1 question was, from watching your videos, you're quite the intellectual and have an organized frame of thinking. In this context, how do you deal with the reality that your family, loved ones, etc. have an expiration date? And how do you deal with the ultimate reality that they will eventually die and leave you alone? You do not strike me as the religious type, but I wonder how you derive your solace from. What you derive your solace from? Good question. First off, and it's going to be a bit blunt, a bit cold, but I am almost convinced that I will be dying first, in a sense, because it's now a tradition in my family to die young, especially for men. And so every single generation dies earlier than the other. And the previous generation died before they made it to 60. So to me, if I can make it to 60, I would already be very happy. But, and because also I'm a man, there's a chance I'm just going to die younger. So that's already sort of a good thing in a way, because I won't have to deal with the loss of my loved ones. They'll have to deal with my loss. But of course, my parents, for example, this is something I'm going to have to deal with because they're going to leave before me. And the way I think about it is, first, I don't try and run away from the feelings. You're going to feel terrible. The person who raised you is going to die. This is going to be the worst time of your life. And just accepting that is also going to be very important, because a lot of people have a difficult time coming to terms with the death of their parents, and they just see their parents age and they can't believe it. But it's going to have to be done eventually, and if you don't, the shock is going to be a lot and it's going to just kick you on your butt. And I also do think that it's the beauty of life, because we do have an expiration date, but it's what makes life worth living. It's the reason why immortality is in reality a curse. You do not want to be immortal, unless you also manage somehow to have all of your loved ones be immortal. But even then, it would just damage the human experience. This is the beauty of it. We live just long enough. We live just long enough to get comfortable with the notion that we will never die, and eventually we just die. It's sort of it's the ultimate like it's the divine joke of this all, right? You start worrying about your death when it's already too late. And I also want to underline one thing, is that they will eventually die and leave you alone, maybe, but understand that this is not true for the rest of humanity, and that a person who dies is only leaving you alone because their presence disappears. But first off, their presence will always be with you because you'll always think about them. And second, yes, they are irreplaceable, but you can still get human contact from other people. And the only case where I think this is not true is for people who are very old and whose every friend and every loved one died. And even then, you can get a cat or a dog. You are never truly alone as a human, and that's great. There's always someone out there for you. You do not strike me as a religious type. Well, actually, I am religious, but not the way most people think about that. And to answer what I believe is your question here, I don't believe in heaven simply because, to me, the text shows that there's no such thing, just like hell. To me, and if we were going to get into that topic, it's an interesting topic, heaven is the Garden of Eden that we left as humans, and therefore we can never go back. Or if we go back, I don't know, maybe God opens the doors again when we're dead. I don't see why that would be the case. Same for hell, there's no such thing as hell. It's said in the Bible that the earth was given to us to make it what we wished, which is hell or heaven. They're both coexisting on earth with us at all times. So we're already there. And I don't know where we go, where we die. I do think that there is a permanence of the soul, but of the soul, not the body. So I don't know, maybe these things exist. I do think that you're just thrown back into the source and then reincarnated. I personally believe in reincarnation, not the way Buddhism thinks of it, but just in the idea that you don't just cease to exist. Because if you cease to exist, you don't know that, meaning that your consciousness has vanished, and therefore you didn't really cease to exist. Does that make sense? If I cut your finger, but you lose sensation the second I cut it, did I really cut your finger? You didn't lose you lost sensation, you didn't feel it. So the only thing that shows to you that I cut your finger is the absence of the finger. But what allows you to witness the absence of the finger is you, that you disappears when you die. It's a long question, and I will eventually make, I think, a philosophical video about it, but that's what I think. And the last question from Ted the Mighty. Let's say that something happens and you miss out on a lot of sleeps, or let's say you get a minor sickness like the cold or something. Do you still work out? Do you skip workout so that you don't stress your body out? I will make a full video about that. Actually, 2 videos. One, how and when to come back from injuries or from a break of lifting, and 2, how to come back from a illness. But I will say that I haven't been sick in 10 years or so, and even when I feel weak or I haven't slept, I haven't eaten, I still work, I still train, especially when I feel like I'm getting sick, like I have a headache, I have a belly ache, because I find that training makes it better. After the training, I feel like I have given my body a reason to stay strong and to combat the sickness, instead of just laying there and waiting for it to get me. And some people will not be able to do that, especially people who have the flu. I personally, the flu, I've never gotten the flu in my life, but I know it's tougher to train when you have the flu. So maybe avoid it then. But I would say to not give yourself excuses. If you're just a little bit unwell, still train. If you're hungry, either have a snack before the gym and go train and don't do anything heavy. Same for if you haven't slept, just don't do anything heavy, but still train, because understand that your failure to eat, your failure to stay healthy, your failure to sleep is on you. And the fact that you're going to skip a workout because of it is going to reinforce that cycle of bad behavior on your part, and you want to avoid that. No excuses. If you messed up, you train regardless, because training is non-negotiable. I'm going to leave you with that. Anything that you want me to answer for the Q&A number 6, I will, and I shall see you whenever we have enough questions. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.